than the President Vice Chancellor of Babcock University. Join me to make welcome Professor Afolarin Olutunde Ojewole, President Vice Chancellor, Babcock University. Listen, do you know that if you don't clap, if he decides not to show up on Sunday, nothing will happen? If he doesn't show up on Sunday, graduation will not happen. Can you put your hands together for him?
Hail Babcock. All right, you slept on that one. You got to respond. Hail Babcock, God's own university. Can I have you respond with me this morning? Hail Babcock. All right, looks like you're still trying to wake up. I can understand you've been home for a minute and you are trying to see that you're back in Babcock. That's all right. All right, let's do that one more time. Hail Babcock, God's own university. And when I say it a second time, then you respond and say, Babcock, arise, shine. So let's start together now. Hail Babcock, God's own university. Hail Babcock, Babcock, arise, shine. I'm glad to be part of the celebrations that is kicking off for the great Nova graduating class. You came, you saw, and you have conquered. As we look forward to your graduation on Sunday, nothing will prevent or diminish your joy in the name of Jesus. I welcome you to the beginning of the ending of your program in Babcock in your first degree. There was a day that you were here, most likely in this same venue, and it was matriculation. Some 4, 5 years ago, or 6 for some. And today, you're ready to kick off the ending of your sojourn. What you have learned in this place are to build your character and make you to be the best in the professions of your choice. Please do not believe that you have graduated from learning. Somebody might have whispered to you that the value of first degree these days were just about the value of secondary school living certificate many, many decades ago. Somebody might have reminded you that when our grandparents finished standard 6, they became teacher in the same school the very next year. Not many people can become lecturers in a university after first degree. So you can see that your degree is only a beginning. And I declare that it will be a beginning of greater things that will happen in your lives. The degrees that you're about to be awarded in your various disciplines is to be held in trust, given to you by Babcock University, to be held in what? In trust. You earned it, but we're giving you what belongs to you, which means for the rest of your life, you are holding it in trust as a steward. You will not have to do anything that will make Babcock withdraw what they have given you in trust. And so carry the values and the lessons that you have learned with you and continue to shine. I just want to say to each and every one of you, see you at the top. Tell somebody sitting right next to you, see you at the top. Okay, tell the one that is not cooperating with you that you better watch me now. Tomorrow you will be begging for my signature. If you believe you're a success, shout out loud and say, I am a success. Thank you very much and welcome to the convocation lecture of today. It is my joy and privilege to say a little something, and then I'll be inviting for the citation of the guest speaker. Our guest speaker of today, Professor Adejoke Oyewumi Ni Popola, has been very well known to me for over 40 years. Ourselves and our husband were friends of mine and members of the same school community and Adventist Student Fellowship community at the then University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University. At that time, architect Remi Oyewumi, was close enough that we began to worship together. Close enough that we began to pray together, and you better give me credit that our prayers found Professor Joke Popola now Oyewumi. Abi, architect, no be so. And I'm grateful to say that studying estate management in University of Ife, then himself studying architecture, those were years of learning and becoming. That was my background before becoming a pastor and then a lecturer, and the rest is history. Our guest speaker also happens to be one that I had the privilege of becoming family with, because the parents adopted me as a son when I became the pastor of the family way back in Akure. And it has been a joyous relationship and benefit that I've received from that family. Professor Joke Oyewumi studied law and continued to rise high in the legal profession, mostly serving in Unilag, where she has risen to be sub-dean and many other things, and right now studying as the dean of the School of Law in University of Lagos. I'll step aside for the citation that will be deep and inspiring of our great speaker today. If you do not mind, ma'am, let us jam our hands together as she comes forward to take our place. Please, Remy, walk her up like you did when we received her from Daddy and Mommy. Come on, let's give her a...
Our Vice Chancellor, Professor, who happens to be the first female, by the way, Vice Chancellor, Professor Folashade Ogunshola, asked me to extend her warm greetings to her brother Vice Chancellor and the entire Babcock community. I also bring greetings from my colleagues at the law faculty, including my dean for the next few days, because come August, by God's grace, I'll be assuming office as the next dean of law at the University of Lagos. Thank you very much. Thank you. I thank the President Vice Chancellor and the Babcock University community for the invitation extended to me to deliver this convocation lecture to the Nova graduating class. I hope I'm getting the pronunciation right. I love that name. I love even more what the name connotes. In the message I received from the university, well, the initial text message that preceded the formal letter of invitation, I was informed about your set's name and color. Nova, meaning new beginning. It represents new chapter, new creation, new identity, new spirit, new hope, and new mind. And your slogan is what? Your slogan is what? Breaking new grounds. Not to talk of your special, royal, prestigious, and classic colors, purple, gold, and white. I'll get to your colors later, towards the end of the lecture. But let me say that the information I got is perfectly consistent with my own findings. When I did a dictionary check, I did a search to better understand Nova. And I realized that it actually is a name that emanates from the Latin term novus, meaning new. I further realized from my inquiry into the Encyclopedia Britannica, among others, that nova refers to an astronomical event where a previously dormant star experiences a bright flare. And so, the name symbolizes, as I was told, just to corroborate what I was told, you know, it symbolizes a fresh beginning or a bright spark. Nova, therefore, dramatically brightens, transforms, and enlivens everything around it. I intend to spend the next minutes demonstrating to you that your class name and identifier, or what we call in my specialty, which is intellectual property, your trademark, the trademark of your class, that is Nova. It's not just poetic. It is prophetic, it is fitting, and it is exactly the mind that you are about to need. Nova class. Your graduation represents the sound of a book closing. But you heard what the Vice Chancellor said when he came up here. And I didn't share my presentation with him, so I was wondering. But I guess, you know, the mind is working together. It represents the sound of a book closing. But I have been invited here today not to eulogize that book, but to help you open the next one. Incidentally, again, as the VC said, some 38 years ago, they left before me. They are not 38 years old, both of them, but some 38 years ago, I was in a hall at the amphitheater of Obafemi, the now Obafemi Awolowo University, just as you are here today. And I was getting ready, just as you are also, to open the next book. Today, I'll be sharing a few lessons that will help, I believe, by God's grace, to contribute significantly to your living out and realizing the full potential of your class identity. So, class, as you graduate, let me ask you, what happens after the last page of your undergraduate sojourn here? what happens? I must admit that for a long time, we have not been very great at answering that question. Young graduates are handed their certificates, they get a handshake, a photograph, and they are told to go forth and do well, as though the future is self-explanatory. It is not, and especially not now. Nova class, you are not inheriting a perfect world. You are inheriting a world that is somewhat cracked. Infrastructure, unemployment, climate, and don't ask me what we've been through in Lagos in the last 2 weeks. I hope someone here will find a solution to that. Poor social security and protection, the list is endless. But I'm also happy to say that you have inherited or you are going into a society that is more interconnected, that has more tools, more facilities than we ever had. And I remember when I started my career in 1992 at the University of Lagos. At the time when we were in school, intellectual property was not even a course that was offered. And so when I was hired, my head of department told me and my other colleague that you were hired because we want to introduce 2 new courses. One is intellectual property, the other is taxation. Pick one. Taxation looked like it might have some math in it. So I opted for intellectual property. Let me be honest about why I found myself there. And when I started to try to do the research, to read up, to prepare, I was given some weeks before my classes resumed. I found that I couldn't even find any, Nigerian materials, no Nigerian textbook, I had to resort to the English textbooks. Most of us, well, at least the law students will know that our laws originated from Britain anyway. So, but of course, it's been years and ages. So I had to also look at the law reports. There weren't many cases in the law reports. The court with jurisdiction in intellectual property is the Federal High Court. So I had to go pay visits to the Federal High Court, go into the library. The court librarian would give me access, and I'll look for files, and sort out intellectual property cases. I wasn't allowed to take them out. I'll sit down there and record them manually. That was how I got materials to teach with. But I'm sure you don't experience all that. As I'm here now, I'm sure anything you want to find out is only a click away, isn't it? So you have inherited a challenged world, broken in some respects, but you have also inherited new tools, a new environment that can help you. The old model of a career was to walk into an inherited system, learn its rules, and rise carefully within it. That model still exists. But your generation carries an additional mandate that your predecessors did not carry with the same urgency. The mandate of new creation. You are not merely permitted to build new systems, new businesses, new art forms, new institutions. You are in many ways required to do so, because the ones that are in existence now are buckling under the weight of a population that this country has not yet learned to fully educate, employ, or protect. And so, I know I've not told you the title of my lecture. I was thinking, what then should I say to these dear young people. I thought it appropriate not to come and send you off, but to attempt to provide you with a tool, a gadget, an old one, over 500 years old, which was fit for the purpose at the time, and which looks like it is fit for the purpose now. And that is why I have titled this lecture, The Renaissance Mindset. The Renaissance Mindset. Is anything projecting? No. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. The Renaissance Mindset. Innovating your identity and enterprise. The Renaissance, of course, is a historical occurrence which happened at a very challenging time in Europe, because it was the aftermath of a terrible pandemic. When we talk of pandemic, what comes to your mind? Nova class, what comes to your mind? You know I'm a teacher, so you have to answer my questions. When you hear the word pandemic, what comes to your mind? COVID-19, isn't it? Yes. That was the pandemic at that time was one of the most catastrophic one ever witnessed. And historical accounts attribute at least a third, some resources say half, of the population that perished because of it. Of course, in the face of such disaster, old certainties about the economy, socio-religious structures, and indeed human worth were all in ruins. But rather than become overwhelmed and giving, new thinkers resiled from the assumption that things must remain as they were, and they built something unprecedented in art, in the sciences, and in commerce. That is where we are now. The Renaissance was the moment a civilization exhausted by plague and famine came up with drastic interventions to propel society forward. And it is that Renaissance mind, that creative, innovative mind, that I want you to bring out. Not a mind that memorizes, but a mind that connects. Not a mind that specializes so narrowly, but one that is open and agile enough to embrace new things, to interact with others for the cross-fertilization of ideas, and to rise above the challenges. When you hear the name Leonardo da Vinci, what comes to your mind? That name continues to resonate today. He is described as the ultimate Renaissance man who embraced multidisciplinary learning, and he pioneered the style of the time by merging art and architecture with science, weaving between engineering and philosophy, not as a hobby, but as a matter of survival, and ultimately leaving his mark. So today, when you think of the Mona Lisa and the sheer number of persons who make sure to visit France, to look at that picture, even over 500 years later, you can see how something came out of the darkness, the bleakness of the time. Nova graduating class, you are therefore not closing a book today. Rather, you are standing at the spine between two volumes, the one titled Students, for which you are being celebrated today, and the other that says, Whatever You Dare to Do Next. Now, that next book has its first page still blank, but that should not worry you. It should feel, if I do effectively the job that our Vice Chancellor has tasked me with this morning, like the most thrilling assignment you have ever been handed, to be continued by you. So, talking about the Renaissance mindset, where do we start from? We start from the anatomy of self, a new mind and a new identity. A mind that now should evolve from absorbing knowledge to generating value. For the better part of 2 decades, you have been receiving information from primary through secondary through university. You were given syllabi, curricula, reading lists, past questions. You were examined and measured by how well you understood what somebody else had already discovered. And you have done it superbly. That's why you are here today. And that's why you are qualified to wear your gown come Sunday. But please know that the student's mind, if you keep it as it is past today, it may slowly become a liability. You need to expand it to become a creator mind that asks, what does the world not yet have that I am positioned to provide or to build? What needs are to be addressed in society? What voids or gaps need to be filled around me? Not just what is the answer. Is there a gap in healthcare, in transportation, in the way business is carried out? When I was doing my research, well, sometime previous actually, I came across information about a development, where a new tool, a new device has been invented by 2 young people, young Nigerians. Nigeria Americans, but they are Nigerians anyway. And that is Halo Hair. What is the work of Halo Hair? It helps with hair braiding. So the braider or the hairstylist starts to braid, and then Halo Hair completes it. And it saves the time spent in the salon. I'm sure many ladies will be interested in that. We can also think of different types of developments, Over time, I have seen a number of my colleagues. Once you are called to the bar, you become a colleague. So I have a child who is also my colleague. I have a nephew that is my colleague as well. Now, I've met a number of them that are doing great in the legal sector, in academia, judiciary, law practice, the bench, and so on, the corporate sector. But I've also seen others who have leveraged their university education to cross from law to technology. The first few times I had to sign references or write references for my colleagues. One said he was going to university to do what? A master's in technology. And I said, master's in technology with a background in law. He told me, yes, ma'am. He's doing great today. Some have crossed from law practice to entrepreneurship in the fashion sector, the entertainment sector. I'm sure some of you know that Funke Akindele, the well-known actress, is an alumna of the Faculty of Law, University of Lagos. Some have moved to education, data management, and so on. Filling gaps they have identified in society. Crossing over is not always comfortable. When you soak in knowledge, that is safe. You know what you'll be graded against, how well you match an existing standard. But when you want to generate value through a creator mind, that exposes you. It makes you vulnerable because there is no clear answer. And sometimes the market is not friendly. But please note that uncertainty is not the opposite of intelligence. Rather, it is the terrain intelligence was built for. So, do that self-examination. Engineer a new identity for yourself. Many young people walk into university already wearing labels handed to them by other people. And sadly, the other people here include we parents, teachers, and society at large. So we're all complicit. You wear labels like the quiet one, the one who isn't good at mathematics, the one who has parents and grandparents who are lawyers, but he dreams in music or he dreams in the arts, the one who is from the hinterland and who was never meant to leave home. By the way, you know, the VC mentioned that we were in Ife. I grew up first in Ibadan, then in Akure. When I came to the law school in Lagos in 1988 for my education, I was staying close to the school, no problem. But when I started working, I had what I thought was a frightening health condition. I was having recurring headaches. And I visited the hospital, they checked me, nothing was diagnosed. Eventually, I met a doctor in the hospital who was patient enough to ask about my history and a lot of things. And then he checked, you know, if the medical students are here, the way they shine a torchlight or something, flashlight into you. I checked everything, asked me some questions. Then he sat back, he reclined on his chair, and he laughed. Can you imagine? I was startled. Why was he laughing? He said, your problem is that you are Johnny Just Come in Lagos, trying to survive. You know, in Akure, where are you going in Akure that you leave home at 5 o'clock? Do you get the picture? But here I was in Lagos, hustling, jumping buses, which I had never done. In fact, I had never seen those kind of buses in Akure because they're not really there. So I was labeled as somebody from the hinterland. If I tell you the Yoruba translation, you know what it means. When they call you, Ara Ilu what? Ilu okay. Yes, that was my own label. In other words, you know, you are not a Lagosian. So, we were labeled. I'm sure some of you have been labeled. I have people around me that have also said, oh, this one is not so good in math. Oh, this one is very quiet, very reserved. Those labels sometimes are kind labels, but many times they are limiting or sometimes cruel. At the end of the day, all of them are somebody else's opinion of who you are. Today, please become the editor and, where necessary, the author of your own identity. This is not a call to arrogance or a call to refusal to accept good faith, constructive criticism that we all need to grow. Rather, it is a call to grow, to be deliberate about developing yourself in all areas, spiritual, moral, academic, and otherwise, using or sometimes rising above the bricks of experiences you have been deliberately or inadvertently served. It is a call to develop a Renaissance identity whose pillars are lifelong learning, as the VC told us this morning, resilience, and digital literacy. Undergirded throughout, surrounded, bound by faith in the Almighty God who created you and who assures you that he has engraved you where? In the palms of his hands, and that your walls are continually before him. However, faith without works is dead. So, to bring your faith alive, we are back to those pillars of the Renaissance identity, lifelong learning. I know you are all looking forward to being out of here. Many people will say, I have a nephew who is graduating too. And when he left school, you know, he first came to us before going home. And he was sleeping and eating. He said, Big Mom, is my younger sister's son, so they call me Big Mom. He said, Big Mom, wow, I'm through. I didn't want to burst his bubble. That, my darling son, you are just starting. So don't say, I have finished my education. No, you have not finished your education. You may have finished, you may, with a stage of formal instruction. Education, properly understood, does not have a graduation date. The professionals thriving in this decade are not the ones with the most credentials from 1988 or anywhere in the past. They are those who, even now, are humble enough to be beginners at something. When I went to the university, to the US for my master's in the year 2000, at that time, I could not type. You know, I was already a lecturer. We had a typing pool. If you needed to type anything, you write it out and give it to them. They would type it for you. When I realized I was going for my master's, a friend, a colleague, did a crash program on how to use the computer, how to type. How can I type in like 1 week? So I arrived New Hampshire. We're given our first take-home assignment. I went confidently to my professor, being a lecturer myself. I said, Professor Hennessy, his name, I don't type. Is it okay for me to submit my assignments in handwritten form? What do you think the response was? No, of course not. If you don't know how to type, this is the time for you to learn. Can you imagine when you have a deadline, is when you will type. Sometimes you are typing, the thing will disappear. I had a colleague in Franklin Pierce who was from Chile, a legal practitioner with a law office. And we were a small group like that from the developing world. He too could not type. I could not type. We had 1 or 2 others. And he said, write out your assignments. Then we'll use the faxing machine to fax it to my office in Chile. My secretary will type it and then bring it back. I did that once or twice. What do you think would happen? Do they speak, is English their first language in Chile? Is it? No, it's not. So the time I spent doing the corrections was such that the next time we got an assignment, I said, don't worry. Let me just try. So at that stage, that was like some 12, 13 years after graduation, I learned a new skill. Subsequent years, when I went later to Max Planck, back to the US for a visiting scholar program, to the International Labour, and every other place I've been, including when I was doing my I never had that problem of typing or using the computer again. Maybe new problems, new challenges, but not that. because I had mastered that. I was forced to, but it's better and easier if, we do it willingly. Embrace, the next learning curve or opportunity. Also, resilience. Accept in advance that your first job may disappoint you. Your first business may wobble, or you may be mocked. Resilience is not the absence of failure, but it is the refusal to let failure write the final chapter. I could tell you stories and stories about myself. At a stage before I did my PhD, women, when I got the PhD form 2 times or 3. The first time I got the scholarship to go to the US. So another master's, I said, let me go for that one. Then I came back, got another form, and was to start. I have my baby graduated from here last year. That was the PhD I got that time. By the time I was ready to start, to go back to school again, they said the admission I had before had lapsed. So I started again. And at that time, if we didn't complete our PhD, we could not be promoted. I was already mid-career. So I spent years static on that level. PhD is not something you can hurry through. But at the time when I wanted to leave, when I thought, let me go and do something else, thank God for a good support system. My husband is here, my family, and in particular, a friend, a senior colleague said, even if you want to leave, do this PhD first. Don't leave because of it. You can do it. And by God's grace, I stuck with it. Of course, by the time I finished and saw the benefits and got my promotion and all that, I wasn't thinking of leaving again. And I thank God. The third, digital literacy. I already talked about my experience there. Today, you have artificial intelligence. Don't fear it. Embrace it. Understand it well enough so that you can direct it and not merely consume it. See it as an apprentice that needs to be trained. The most important thing that I want you to take out of here is the importance of the most demanding creative project you will undertake. That is the deliberate reinvention of yourself again and again, as may become necessary as the world evolves around you, as things change. My dear Nova class, this may be compared to an artist that takes clay, coloring, and molds for shaping, directing, reshaping until something emerges. You are about to do the same thing, except that in your case, the raw material that you need include your interests. What are you interested in? Your discipline, what have you studied? You are not limited by it, but it's a springboard for you. Your networks. What networks do you have? Your unresolved curiosities, even your fears. And then take all this, your raw material, and make it into an art that represents and is recognizably and unmistakably you. This engine of change, this new creation and new innovation, is a way of relating to challenges. It's a way of saying or refusing to accept that, oh, this is the way things have always been done. We older ones like saying that. But I know enough about the young people that they are not willing to accept that. But don't just complain. Rather, look for a solution. When we are trying to teach the young people, now there are washing machines, dishwashers, and so on. But I say to the young ones, at least you should know how to wash. You should know how to wash with your hands. And they say, Mommy, tell us why. Well, if I could not convince them, Papa is there, he convinced them. But I'm not sure, that we can carry that forward to the next generation. Although I visited one of them recently and I saw one of my grandchildren being told to wash her, some of her things with her hands, even though they're not even here. I laughed, So those lessons went somewhere. A young colleague graduated, somebody I was mentoring. And after NYC, I was worried. What do we do now? Should we look for a law firm where you can? Then her dad said to me, Prof, your daughter doesn't want those kind of jobs. So she has started something online. She started an online practice. It has become common then, but at that time I was wondering, what's this? This girl, are you serious? You know what your parents went through. She started an online practice where she supports, new companies, startup companies. She's their lawyer. For a modest fee, she drafts their agreement, gives them advice and all that. She's innovating. A choir director who blends Yoruba praise tradition and electronic production to reach a younger congregation is innovating. A doctor or nurse who adopts digital health monitoring for patient care is innovating. Nova class, do not fear disruption. Many of the things we are enjoying today, including the mobile-first platforms that let a farmer in Ekiti or a trader in Kano move money as easily as a banker in Victoria Island, Lagos, are all as a result of the innovations of fintech builders who looked at the banking system with long, exhausting queues. I'm not sure many of you were going to banks at that time. Burdensome paperwork and the frightening risk of a cash-only economy, and built around it. They created the mobile-first platforms. And now, the conventional banks are still trying to catch up. This is what the new creation looks like. And the vehicle that you will use is enterprise, because you need to go beyond your idea, the conception of your idea, to translate it to, something tangible or useful. And so, enterprise here means initiative, it means stamina and confidence in undertaking new tasks, difficult projects, or anything else that provides a solution. A brilliant idea without the discipline of enterprise may not go anywhere. But before you rush into enterprise, validate, talk to people. 20 should be fine, real people. Let them tell you about this problem, and that if there is a solution, they're ready to pay for it. I have issues that, I feel I can pay to resolve if it can be easily done. One is the halo hair example I talked about earlier. When you have a lot on your plate and you think of sitting down for hours and hours plaiting your hair and all that. Then start small, like Da Vinci. He didn't start with the Mona Lisa. He started with sketches that nobody remembers. When I wrote my first book, it was taking a long time to come out. And my senior colleague said, Joke, where is this book? You've been talking about it for... I said, he said, look, if you are not ready to call it principles of intellect or whatever, say some thoughts on intellectual property. or some introductory, just give it a title that will show that this is an evolving, but do something and bring it out. Start small. Then have or build a transactive multidisciplinary network. Don't go it alone. Surround yourself with people who will complement your knowledge. As you're in school now, you have friends who are in law, who know about law and about regulation. You have friends in science and engineering. So you have those who understand numbers, those who understand marketing, art, design, how to have an aesthetic packaging. They understand the customer's heart. The most resilient ecosystems are built by people who know who to call when they get to the end of their own expertise. Be resilient. Don't allow setbacks to define you. And perhaps most importantly, as I round up, the right spirit, ambition with a conscience. We have all watched businesses. I don't know whether to call them businesses. You know, some time ago there was the pyramid structure thing and all manners of things that are going on. Platforms that extracted value from contributors without regard for their well-being. Hustles that promised riches while harming the vulnerable or the undiscerning. I'm asking you to build honestly. Don't build your financial security on the wreckage or exploitation of others, because that is not real success. The right spirit asks the question, does this create value? Does it add to, society? Or is this just something that will crumble and I will be the only one that will benefit? I'm not saying legitimate crumbling. I'm saying when you know that something is not sustainable, contribute this amount, I will double it, kind of things. No. So, Nova class. Don't allow fear or worry to hold you back. The job market you fear is not vanishing. It's reorganizing itself around exactly the kind of graduates this university has spent years quietly preparing, provided you refuse the temptation to think narrowly. My charge, Nova class. We arrive at the final stage of this morning's address. Though, as I promised you earlier, an ending here is simply an opening elsewhere. Go then and let the world see and watch what a new chapter looks like when it is written by hands held by the Almighty God and that are as capable as yours. Carry a new mind that creates rather than merely consumes. Wear a new identity that you have authored, not one that was handed to you by people, including with your parents sometimes, inadvertently, forgive us, who could not see your full horizon. Practice innovation as a daily discipline. The world does not need you to inherit its broken systems quietly. Rather, it needs you to innovate and to rebuild them loudly if necessary. Ride the enterprise, the vehicle of enterprise, with the right spirit that is bold, collaborative, and unwilling to profit from other people's harm. And when the cloud of uncertainty rolls in, as it will from time to time, reach for a new hope, remembering that every renaissance in human history was born from precisely the kind of challenges and disruptions you are inheriting today. You were not born to survive only. You were born to author this century. And as you leave, please know that you are holding in your hands a canvas, waiting for the translation of your ideas to meet a need. I hope that you become bold enough, curious enough, and prepared enough to pick up your pen and write on your canvas as someone providing a solution. Nova, wear boldly your purple color. Purple that symbolizes royalty, nobility, and ambition. Purple we know is a blend of red and blue. Red signifies energy, blue, stability, wisdom, and creativity. Mix that your purple with gold, named after that precious metal that represents achievement, prestige, and prosperity. And do not forget your white, which represents purity and cleanliness. That is the right spirit. What more should I say? Thank you, Nova. Thank you, Babcock. Class of Nova, go forth and break new ground. Congratulations.
We can do better than that. I want to thank Professor Joke Oyewumi for that inspiring lecture for our Nova graduating class this year. Ladies and gentlemen, it's wonderful listening to Prof outline a few things that we should bear in mind as we navigate our way into the new horizon. Lifelong learning and resilience, she talked about that we should look for the engines of change and work towards that. That is important that our ideas will be converted into viable enterprises. And she says from her presentation that disruption is a fertile ground. So we shouldn't be broken by that. Why don't you give a round of applause for Professor Joke? At this time, we will invite her to come up stage again and sit here as we're going to take some questions and answers from our students. All right? Do we have those who have questions for Prof? Do we have? We don't have. Are you sure? Okay, let's see. If you have question, let me see. If you have question, let's see. Indicate. Any question for Prof? Any question? Don't be swayed by the bandwagon, all right? Is there any question for Prof? There is, right? No one? No one? Okay, if you say no one, we will leave it at that point. Can we give her a round of applause once again? At this time, we're going to take a short music interlude from Adije as we will progress with the next item. Let's take a short music interlude as we progress to the next item. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we want to show our courtesy and appreciation to our guest lecturer for this presentation she has made today. Let's invite the graduating class president and our sponsor as we will show our little appreciation to our professor. May we invite Professor Joke to please come up. May we invite you, Ma. Let's put hands together as she comes up now. Nova class president and sponsor, is the time now. We are grateful for the wonderful time that our prof has presented our lecture.
Like who goes me when you pay the price? Hey, look, day and night, the kind thoughts with it in my mind. Like who goes me when you pay the price? Despite all my vices, I'm not that nice. You give your life to save my life. The ultimate sacrifice. I didn't even know what was lost and I needed saving. Meanwhile, you carry me for mine. I cannot take this life. Who's to make I know what should be this? How could I not when you are too good? You turn the cinema like me to brand new. You love me and you teach me how to love you. It's not about what you did or what you didn't. You ain't got nothing to prove. It's let everything that has breath praise the Lord, for He is good. All of my praise you get, all of my worship too. You are deserving. Thank you for every yes to prayers I prayed. Even the no's and the waits when I wasn't ready yet. Glory to the one who does exceedingly abundantly more than the boy expects. He wish that don't they don't care whether we live or die, but I thank you for every breath. When I think about the things you don't do for me.
Good morning, everyone.
And you know we.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, my name is Temilade Ogusoya. I'm the Vice President for Iperu Campus. On behalf of the Nova Executive, the school administration, I want to present this award for inspirational leadership to Professor Adejoke Omolola Oyewumi for being the Convocation lecturer for the Nova graduating class of 2026. This award is in recognition to your inspiring lecture and invaluable contribution to Babcock University Nova graduating class of 2026. Thank you very much.
All right, at this point, we want to invite quickly our team from Bukodel, and they will make a very brief announcement after on. But at this point, we want to invite just listen as they will present.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, standing on existing protocol. I'm Dr. Damilare Akinwumi, and with me, we have Mr. Afolabi Theophilus. So we are from the Babcock University Center for Open and Distance Learning, that's Bukodel. A few years ago, we got into partnership with InterSwitch, and InterSwitch has come for you today to give you an offer. There is an e-learning course that has been prepared for graduating students, and if you get a percentage of a particular score, 80% and above, you have a job waiting for you at InterSwitch and our partners. As we speak, we have some Babcock graduates that are working with InterSwitch because they registered for this course. So what you need to do is to register using, the first thing is to scan the barcode. There is a barcode. These banners will be placed at 2 strategic points, one at the entrance here and another at the entrance, this other entrance. So scan the barcode, then register using your valid Babcock email address. An email will be sent to you via a link, then click on the link to get access. You can do that, you can complete the course in 1 day, and you will get a message from InterSwitch. Great Nova 2026 graduating class. So this is an opportunity for you that after graduation, you don't have to wait to get a job. The job is waiting for you. If you have any question, we will still be around here to attend to you. Thank you very much. God bless you. You don't, okay, thank you, sir. I just gave me a reminder now that this particular course, if you check the breakdown of your school fees, you have already paid for it. Fundamentals of e-payment. Fundamentals of e-payment.